G'day, this is Peter VK3YE, and hopefully we're now live. You're not going to see much of me this time because I still haven't sorted out the lighting. And anyway, you know what I look like in my other videos. So, thought we'd do a Q&A. It's about just after 7 a.m. here in Melbourne, and the time should be convenient for those in both the Americas, Sunday afternoon, getting into Sunday evening in the East, and also for those in Europe, it might still just be before bedtime. So hello to 66, who is our first commenter. I'll show you, a few bits of homebrew gear, maybe some circuit diagrams if they come up clear enough, and I'm here to answer your questions. And your image is flashing. Why is that? That is a very good question. And I'm getting that on my screen as well. We'll keep going. If you can hear me okay, that's the main thing. Now, when I shine it at the light, it stops flashing. When I shine it here, it starts flashing. So that is very interesting. We'll see. No, it's flashing again. And the strobe effect. Well, I could spend some time going into Google and troubleshooting it, but don't think I will. G'day to Reverend Gunn and Terrio KKQ, Drangio, Paul Graham did the same last time when I took it outdoors. Maybe if I reduce the light. Yeah, okay. I've made the light a bit less. And that stopped the flashing. It's a bit dim. G'day to Terry. I've turned the light, but I'm reflecting it somewhere else, and that stopped the flashing. So we'll go with that. The moral is that too much light. Maybe it's due to the 50 hertz mains that the light is driven with. Or the light is one of those little compact fluorescent lights. Maybe that interacts with the computer. Anyway, let's not talk about the light. Great to have lots of people joining. We've got 14 so far. G'day to KB8 AMZ Terry, Leonardo, and 66. Am I retired? Nope, self-employed. So luckily I'm quite flexible with what I can do at various times, which is great. Before we get questions, we'll shine a bit of a light on a few bits and pieces I've assembled on the table. Got a few circuit diagrams as well. You might have seen this. I haven't used it for a little while, but this is a little whisper transmitter from Sodabeams. Shine a bit more light on it. That helps. Thanks. There we are. Yeah, okay. The flashing just tells you when there's too much light. So here, it's an amazing little whisper transmitter. There are a couple of different versions. This is the Flexi, Whisperlight Flexi, which has multiple bands. In fact, both the Whisperlight transmitters have a lot of bands. But yeah, this one can go from very low to quite high in frequency. And it puts out about 200 milliwatts. If you have a look, this is the SMA connection, the antenna, and the other connections are on the other side. You probably can't quite see it here, but there's a connection where you can connect your power source. It takes 5 volts. So that's featured in some of my videos. And I've had a lot of fun with that. There's a button on here. In fact, now you can see it. When I wave my hand here, that reflects enough light for it to be a bit clearer. But anyway, you can see the button on the bottom right, and that button you have to accurately set the timing for. You've got to have a very accurate clock, and whenever it's 2 minutes, an even number of that ticks over, and you press the button and it sets the thing up to transmit. Because the timing with Whisper is very critical. And g'day to N5EIT in Louisiana. Yeah, so I've been using this to test antennas. Probably in some of my videos you've seen it. And it's great to get a dB indication relative to antennas if you do several tests. It's not foolproof because HF conditions can vary. There can be a lot of fading, and that's the but yeah, overall, particularly on stable paths like in the middle of the day, then you can do a few transmissions of this and change your antenna configuration around and see what happens. Yeah, that's the Whisperlite Flexi that is sold by Soda Beams, and I've done a review on my video channel. Now, hi from UK. Yeah, getting a bit late. Martin G7RQD. Have worked VK. Yep, with the FT817, 2.5 watts on 40 meters. Yep, it's tough going, but yet you can do it. It's probably tougher for you guys to work us than us to work Europe. There's a lot more of you than us. But yeah, well done for doing that, and it shows what QRP can do, even during low solar cycle years. If you've just turned on, this is Q&A with VK3YE, and you can ask me anything. And Paul, are my books available in PDF? Yeah, no, it's two versions of the books. There's either a ebook format that you can read on Kindle, or there's hard copy paperback book. Both those are available, unfortunately not PDF. Marcus Chester, what better to use in the desert, a vertical dipole antenna or inverted V? I would suspect an inverted V, because in the desert your ground conditions aren't likely to be very conductive, and if you you could have a vertical. Actually, you said, sorry, I misread it. Vertical dipole. Vertical dipole is ground independent. So if you've got something, a pole tall enough, then a vertical dipole would be fine. Main difficulty is that on a band like 40 meters, getting the height is going to be difficult, particularly something you want to be portable. But it depends on if your desert happens to be overlooking the water, then a vertical dipole can work very well. Inverted V is good. A lot of it depends on the distances you want to work. If you want to work middle distances on bands like 80 and 40 meters, say around 200 to 500 kilometers, then an inverted V has plenty of radiation at reasonably high angles, and that will work very well. Whereas a vertically polarized antenna, like a vertical dipole, might be good for lower angles and therefore DX. So yeah, overall, probably the inverted V. Leonardo, how did I get involved in amateur radio? I don't know. I've been involved in it for almost as long as I can remember, although my family weren't into it. Just fascination with boxes of electronics, wires and things, which I was given. I was given a lot of old radios and pulled them apart. Terry, local radio club, a Skype session with several clubs. Have you heard anything about your club being involved with a Skype club? No, I haven't. Milan, did you connect to Gamma Match the aluminium loop antenna featured in your video? Would soldering work? I've never tried soldering to aluminium. Some people have tried it. And if it succeeds, no reason why it couldn't work. I just use, as good a connection as possible. Use sandpaper to clean up the aluminium and whatever's contacting with it. You might have to take the loop apart every now and then to clean it up, which has sometimes been the case with my pedestrian mobile loop. When I found the VSWR has been high, I've taken the Gamma Match thing off and sanded up and re-screwed it together, and it's been fine. The 25 viewers, which is almost a record high. I think we had about 30 last time. Marcus Chester, I'm on 11-meter band. I have it on a 12-meter spider beam pole. It's 5/8. Well, no reason why that can't work. It should be all right. Although on the 11-meter band, you'll get local communication. If there's low noise, you might get distances out to maybe 50 kilometers. If there's sporadic E-type propagation, then you'll get further. Yeah, lower HF bands, amateur bands are better. How do you measure the output impedance of your transmitters, Charlie B? I've never actually done it, but there's something in solid state design for the radio amateur, possibly also in experimental methods. And it talks about the output impedance of final amplifiers being based on your power levels. Like you can work out your DC input, and your rate. But impedance is basically a ratio between voltage and current, and you look at how much current you're producing and how much power your collector voltage of, and you can use formulas and work out output impedances. But yeah, some amounts of power, like around 1 or 2 watts, it's a magic amount of power. If you've got 1 or 2 watts with 12 volts, the output impedance of the transmitter is around 50 ohms. So you can just use a straight pi network that there doesn't need to be any impedance transformation. The values for that pi network on 40 meters would be about 400 picofarad for the capacitors, 390. If you're using a pi network with 2 coils, then you'd have the capacitor in the middle would be double that, around 800 picofarad, at around 1 microhenry for the 2 coils. That pi network would give you a wouldn't transform in impedance, and it would be okay for a QRP rig with about 1 or 2 watts. If you're running a higher power QRP rig, like 5 or 6 watts, then, and you're having 12 volts on your final, then your output impedance from the stage is going to be lower, in which case you might need to put in a 4-to-1 transformer. You can use ferrites for that. Couple of turns of twisted enameled copper wire that you'd wind on a piece of ferrite, and depending on how you connect that, you can get a 4-to-1 impedance step up, going from, you might have 12.5 ohms on your final, going up to 50 ohms for your pi network. How long have I had the 817? I got on my second one now. I got my first one in about 2001 when they came out. What's the first design for a DIY QRP radio? Bit like asking how long is a piece of string, Leonardo. But if you have a look at my website, vk3ye.com, on the QRP thing, there's a thing called minimum standards for QRP radios, and you can there are certain types of radios, certain things you need in a radio to successfully make contacts. Like, it's better if you are frequency agile rather than crystal controlled, so you can find other people on their frequency rather than hoping that they would come and find your weak signal on your frequency that might have interference. So frequency agility is important. You need at least 1 or 2 watts to get above other people's noise, and you need a decent receiver that's not overloaded by strong signals and is reasonably selective. So yeah, have a look at my website, minimum standards for QRP equipment. And I also talk about it in a lot more detail in my book, Minimum QRP. Yeah, thanks, Marcus. Terry, yeah, first rig was an HW9. Yeah, 3 watts. Yeah, it's yeah, I started with similar power from a 1-valve QRP rig. What you're seeing here, by the way, is I haven't talked about it, is a pedestrian mobile antenna that I described quite a long time ago, maybe 7 or 8 years ago in a video. It's got a matching unit in it, and it operates from 7 to 28 megahertz. It's not very efficient. My other channels, other videos use loops and verticals, which are better, so I haven't used it a lot. But yeah, this is one type of pedestrian mobile antenna I've used on HF. Have you monetized your channel? Yeah. People see my videos, there'll probably be annoying ads beforehand, and yeah, so they've monetized. So yeah, it's monetized. Yeah, Terry, when Sunspot Cycle was better up to late 90s. I've heard Hawaii in the South Pole, but never Australia. Well, you can still work Australia on QRP, 20 meters, sometimes it comes open, 40 meters. It's not something you do every day, but if you persist, and you're at the right time, big grey line times, you can work us Aussies on QRP. The best times for 40 meters are in our evening, so that's around around 6, 7, 8 p.m. local time here, whatever it is over in the States. Digital analog ham. Yeah, glad you're enjoying the video. If you've just turned on, you're not seeing much of my face as the lighting here I haven't sorted out, but I'm Peter VK3YE, and you can ask me anything on homebrew, QRP, portable operating, all that sort of stuff. It's winter here in Melbourne, so I haven't been out as much as I would during the summer. And we've got 23 viewers, which is great. So welcome to those who've just joined in. Black Dog, analog, oscilloscope, can't wait, 30-meter rig. Yeah, 30 meters is quite a good band. Working DX. Terry, you find an amazing amount of junk. I'm still trying for Australia. Yeah, hopefully someone will hear. Yeah, just persist. Eventually you'll get it. On 20 meters, there's a thing called the ANSA-net on 14183 kilohertz. It's a SSB net, and I don't know the time, but it's on our local afternoon time here in Australia. I think it's every day. So you might be able to, I don't know the time, it's in the USA, but if you have a look at ANSA-net on 14183, you can sometimes hear us. What's the smallest usable HF antenna? Probably a magnetic loop, like I've described some in my videos. One of my magnetic loops is like 40 centimeters in diameter, and that works down to 21 megahertz. Another one is 90 centimeters in diameter, and that works down to 7 megahertz. It's quite lossy. You are losing, it's possibly 15 dB or more below a full-sized antenna, but you can still make good contacts with a magnetic loop, even on that QRP SSB. I hope that answers your question on the smallest usable HF antenna. You could also use just a bit of wire that you roll up and put in your pocket and throw it over a tree. Okay, this device here is a small audio amplifier. I might have featured it in one of my previous videos, but yeah, this thing is a loop or a coil, which is a strobe trigger transformer. It's pretty obscure, but it allows you to pick up audio induction loops. Some public buildings or concerts have induction loops so that people with hearing aids can better hear the noise without so much extraneous noise. But yeah, this is a high gain audio amplifier driven off a 9-volt battery, and you can even if you don't have a hearing aid, you can hear audio stuff. Oh, great. We've got a couple of questions. Ivy Bells got through to VK land with 500 milliwatts of Whisper. Yep, very easy with Whisper. I can do it pretty much every day, and great that you love the channel and enjoy the books. As far as books go, there's quite a few that I've written. One's called a minimum QRP on low power QRPing. Another one on hand carried QRP antennas, really popular topic. On portable antennas that are cheap and simple to build. Getting back into amateur radio for those returning to the hobby. There's also a dictionary, illustrated ham radio dictionary, and also 99 things you can do with amateur radio starting out. Do you have any portable vertical multi-HF band homemade antenna designs? Yes, many. Have a look at my videos on this channel. And also, you absolutely need the book Hand Carried QRP Antennas. Yeah, that's got plenty of QRP and portable antenna designs. A lot of them are multi-band. And g'day to Argentina LU1MAW. Measure efficiency of antennas. Several ways you can do that. You can, if you're lucky enough to have antennas several at a time, then you can have a switch and switch between them when you're talking to people. Normally that's only a few people at a time, or you can use Whisper. I mentioned the Whisper Lite transmitter here. With Whisper, or you can even record audio from Whisper and just play it through your FT817 or something. And when you're transmitting Whisper, you can look at a website called WhisperNet, and that you type in your call sign, and you get signal reports all around the world on Whisper. The signal reports are expressed in dB. If your signal is a positive value of dB, that's the signal to noise ratio, then your signal is quite strong. I think the weakest I've been heard is like minus 30 dB. And the strongest is probably, plus 20 dB. So there's a whole, you can transmit bursts of Whisper, do it several times for each antenna, and then you can compare performance. That's, I hope that's answered your question. Otherwise, some people have antenna ranges where you can measure field strength. Favorite antenna, 10 meter mast, 25-foot vertical wire, and counterpoise wires. With the tuner, that can work. It would be quite a good DX performer. With a tuner, you don't have to mess around with balance or anything like that. If it's a wide enough frequency range, then you can match that. What have we got here? Light isn't very good. This is very simple. This is a little toroid, ferrite toroid. You can see a few turns of wire just there. And the turns of wire are connected straight to this light emitting diode. So the idea with this is that you just thread this onto your antenna wire or even a ground radial, and you can get a rough idea of current. So even with QRP, this LED will light if you're at a high current part of the circuit. Terry, when I work near the beach, that happens a bit more than when I'm actually videoing. But it's great to get people asking what you're doing, or they think you're talking to aliens, or they think you're a terrorist or whatever. There's one of my videos where I did a compilation of a few of them. Terry, there was a video of this LED thing. Digital analog ham, are the HF bands dead or nobody calling because everyone's saying the bands are dead? Yes, you're right. When people say the bands are dead, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. And you keep calling, and eventually you'll get replies. You could build a automatic CQ caller. I've described that in some of my videos. Or if you have you could just record it on your mobile phone. If you're transmitting SSB, then you can use your voice recorder, just record a CQ call, and you can get a mobile phone app where you can just repeat on a loop your CQ calls and have that up to your transceiver. If it's got Vox, like the FT817 does, voice activated transmit, then it can call CQ, and you go off and do other things, and people will come back to you. And so definitely call CQ if there's no one around. And you might be the signal that opens the band up for other people. Glad that you enjoy the spoof videos. Seeing me in a suit, yeah. Wearing shoes is special. Yeah. Have a long chat with Slovenia from Louisiana. 1 watt, yeah. Particularly band 40, 30, 20 meters has its moments. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere at the moment, 10 and 6 meters are great. Not every day, but there's the sporadic E-season where you can get some great distances even with QRP. And also another thing is, g'day to Ian, G7HFS. Another thing is you can look at WSPR and and that can tell you, you don't put your call sign in, you have a look at the map, and that can see where its propagation paths and it's and what's likely to be open. And you can search stations and look at the signal strengths as well. If you've got very weak signal reports on WSPR, like minus 20 dB, then you probably won't be able to make the path on SSB or CW. But when the signal levels are stronger, like 0 or higher, then they are paths that could be open. There's also online HF prediction things. I occasionally